Okay, so our assignment for this was to cover inverse trig functions, and this is a common topic in the pre-calculus classroom. You might see some juniors and seniors seeing this. And we started by giving students a warm-up. This is kind of our way to walk around and we can assess prior knowledge on what the students know about inverse, if they know how to find it, which is usually taught by switching x and y and solving for x. So how we started, we wanted to start simple, and we started with a linear function, and then we progressed to a quadratic function. And one of the interesting things about functions is that all functions have an inverse, but the original function must be one-to-one if its inverse is also a function. So that's kind of the path we were interested in, and we wanted to introduce the topic of how to restrict the domain of the original function such that its inverse is also a function. Now, if you notice with the linear function, you actually never have to restrict the domain because it is always a one-to-one function. But a quadratic, for example, will always need a restrict domain due to its parabolic shape. And so now we're going to take this a step further, and then we go into trig functions, and we also made a GSP, which I'm going to pull up right now. Geometry Sketchpad is a great program. We found this online, and what it does is it allows the students to explore their conjectures. For example, so any trig function will need a domain restriction because the graphs oscillate and they keep going towards infinity and towards negative infinity. So this program allows you to see the inverse. You can see the coordinate points. And then we gave students time to make a conjecture on where the domain needs to be restricted on the original function. So I'm going to hide the inverse right now. So where on this graph do we need to restrict the domain such that its inverse is also a function? Now the cool thing we did is that we gave each group had either sine, cosine, or tangent. So each member in the group were working towards finding the same answers for the same graph. So one group might have had all sine, another group would have had cosine, another would have had tangent. After we gave them time to explore, each packet had a colored sticker, and we gave them a minute or two just to find other people in the class with the same colored sticker, so that these new groups of three now had one person representing sine, a different person representing cosine, and a third person representing tangent. By doing this, this would ensure that each student would have to contribute and help the other students to prove that these restricted domains for their respective function did work. And again, they would have time to work as well while we walked around and assessed how they were doing, and we would also help answer any questions they might have had. Once students finished, so I'll scroll through this a little bit more, we then summarized. We had a full class discussion for the last 10 minutes or so on just to try and generalize the main points and the big ideas that we wanted students to take away from this class session. So here again, similar questions just for different functions. And then once we were finished with that full class discussion, we had an exit slip for the students to fill out, and this was just for us to see. We were not going to grade this exit slip, but it was just to assess how the students digested the material we presented before them for that day's lesson. And with that, that was our 50 minutes, and overall it went very well. So we hope, I'll keep scrolling through this. Here again, here's a chart that they can fill out. And it was cool because you can see when we say switch to x and y, you would actually see that when you fill this out, that the domain and range just swap places in the inverse, which is cool. And again, we have some graphs for students. We did not have time in this class session to go over these other functions, but this could have been homework for them to do at home, to take what they learned in class to apply it to these new problems. And then here's the last exit slip. I'm running a little short on time. But again, students would have to figure out which function this is and then how to restrict the domain. And overall, it was a very successful class, and we hope you find this useful. Thank you.